Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Different varieties tend to produce different results under different conditions.
A new crop for farmers that is now legal to grow.
We have a cluster of early flu cases and people with flu symptoms.
An early arrival of the flu and what it could mean.
I had no idea that it would actually be this big.
A middle school aquaponics program preparing students for STEM jobs.
Hi everyone, I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, a tropical depression that formed in the western Gulf is expected to race through the state in the overnight and morning hours.
Depression 17 has winds of 35 miles per hour and could become Tropical Storm Olga before it's done. But the rain it brings is expected to clear out by late Saturday morning.
Now a look at some of the other news that's making headlines across Louisiana. One of the world's leading bariatric surgeons has joined LSU's Pennington Biomedical Research Center. Dr. Phil Schauer is known as the first surgeon to perform laparoscopic gastric bypass surgery and joins Pennington from the world-renowned Cleveland Clinic. Pennington officials say his recruitment represents a new day for the obesity research at the facility, for the Metro Baton Rouge region, and for the state. They say it gives Pennington the opportunity to become the research institution in the world for metabolic surgery. Construction is underway at Sewella Community College in Lake Charles on a new culinary, gaming, and hospitality building. The college says the $10.2 million development will be about half the size of a football field. Students there will train for jobs and careers in the state's nearly $19 billion hospitality industry. Sewella expects the state to see nearly a 15% increase in hospitality jobs by the year 2026. Construction is scheduled to be completed in March 2021. Louisiana's budget surplus has edged up to nearly $535 million. Previous estimates were around $500 million. Financial analysts say most of the unspent cash from the budget year that ended June 30th comes from better-than-expected personal income and business tax collections, mainly tied to federal tax changes. About $134 million of the surplus is earmarked to the state's rainy day fund, while another $53 million must pay down retirement debt. Lawmakers will spend the remaining $348 million on one-time expenses in the 2020 legislative session. The National Park Service has awarded Shreveport an additional $500,000 grant to preserve an historic landmark and transform it into a civil rights museum. The agency has given Shreveport $1 million to renovate Old Galilee Missionary Baptist Church. The church was built in 1877 by freed black slaves and is where Martin Luther King Jr. gave 2 speeches. The church has been vacant, though, for nearly 25 years. The museum will highlight stories dedicated to African American history and the African American experience during the Civil Rights Movement. The state's insurance commissioner is warning state motorists to be careful when buying used cars that could have been flooded in Texas by Tropical Storm Imelda. Commissioner Jim Donnellan says you should look for signs of water damage and look closely for stains, mildew, rust, mismatched carpet, and dirt under the seats. He says if a deal seems too good to be true, then question it. He urges used car shoppers to seek vehicle history reports and ask to see the physical title. The head of America's Cajun Navy is accused of taking money donated to buy Christmas presents for children. Police arrested 39-year-old John Adam Billioux Jr. this week on charges of theft by fraud and misappropriation of funds. Lafayette Parish officials are investigating claims that Billioux kept most of the money from a September fundraiser meant to help 2 foster children and their parents. Billioux denies it. He created America's Cajun Navy in September 2017 after he and others used their boats and high-water vehicles to help people in Houston during Hurricane Harvey. It is one of several rescue groups with some version of Cajun Navy in their name. The Alabama student accused of calling in a bomb threat during the LSU-Florida football game in Tiger Stadium is pleading not guilty. 19-year-old Connor Bruce Kroll of Crozet, Virginia, is charged with communicating false information. Baton Rouge police received a call during the game stating there was a bomb in Tiger Stadium. Records say the call was traced back to Kroll. He was arrested by the University of Alabama police 24 hours later, and if convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison. The State Fair opened this week with the theme Gumbo of Fun. It runs through November 10th at the fairgrounds in Shreveport. Since 1906, the event has attracted some of the top food vendors in the country. It also includes carnival rides, live music, and a livestock sale and auction. It draws about 425,000 people each year and has an economic impact of $24 million.
On November 16th, voters will elect the next governor of the state. Democrat John Bel Edwards, the incumbent, will either be reelected or his GOP challenger, Eddie Rispone, will ascend to the state's top political job. But circle Wednesday, October 30th on your calendar. That night, LPB and the Council for Better Louisiana will host the runoff debate between the 2 candidates.
It's going to be likely the last chance we see them together, face-to-face, talking to each other on a stage. I went and talked with some voters to get their reaction to this runoff, which came about because Governor Edwards failed to reach the 50% plus 1 margin needed to win the primary.
I'm thrilled that there is a runoff between the 2 parties. I'm actually happy with the Republican candidate, although honestly I would have been happy with either. There's no way that a Republican candidate could have come out on top in the primary election because, of course, the votes were split. So if you add those for Abraham and those for Rispone together, they far outweigh the votes for Governor Edwards.
You expect that to be what we see going forward?
Yes, I most certainly do, yes.
There was a lot of support behind Edwards, or John Bel Edwards, in his first win back in 2016, so I figured it'd be no case he'd come around again and win, but I guess that's Trump support coming in. You know, we see him come in and his people coming into the state in the last minutes there and rally some support for the Republicans, so yeah, a little surprised to see a runoff.
Kind of surprised there was a runoff. Seemed like everything was moving towards the governor being reelected. It'll be a close race, that's what everybody's predicting, and I guess we'll wait and see what happens election night.
You can watch the final debate live and broadcast statewide next Wednesday, October 30th at 7 here on LPB, brought to you by LPB and the Council for Better Louisiana.
Louisiana could see up to 80,000 acres of hemp growing in fields by the year 2020. That would be up from 0 grown this year. There are details to be worked out, but our thanks to Ag Commissioner Mike Strain. He sat down with us and walked us through what this new day could mean for farmers in our state.
We submitted our plan and our rules, which are basically part of that plan, to the House and Senate Ag Committees. We did that this week. Under the 2018 Farm Bill, the Farm Bill specifies by law that several things have to happen. One, that the state has to pass enabling legislation, which it did. 2, that I, as commissioner in the Department of Agriculture, must put forth a state plan that is basically within the boundaries of the 2018 Farm Bill and the associated rules. The USDA has not yet published their rules. We have a general idea of what they're going to say. Bottom line is we hope to have everything in the proper federal and state legal format by January the 1st. We're also, as soon as we have approval of the plan, we will begin signing up and registering farmers, registering seed distributors, registering processors, and licensing them, because the whole bottom line is that we want to have a crop in the ground by the spring. And we'd like to get 2 crops next year. It's about 110 days per crop. And so, we have to get everybody licensed, get all the information, get the appropriate seeds in from appropriate seed distributors to make sure that they have good germination, that it is hemp, and that, of course, that is a viable seed, doesn't have any type of weeds with it or whatever, and then get this crop in the ground. So we're going to be having educational seminars. They're going to be hosted by the ag centers to teach our farmers and talk about hemp, because hemp is a complicated plant. And so there are many different varieties of hemp, and the different varieties can produce different products. You have hemp that is for fiber, hemp that is for flour. You have hemp that is for different CBDs. There's 64 different CBDs. There are many compounds in this hemp plant. And so different varieties tend to produce different results under different conditions. And some of the plants, we're going to want to make sure that we get a pure group of female plants. Those will make the CBD oils. If you have male and female, then you will get seed. And if you're producing fiber or flour, you'll need male and female.
How important is it for farmers? Could this be a game changer?
It's very important that the farmers have an additional crop they can grow. This is a new crop. And so, we haven't grown hemp here really pretty much in Louisiana history, very little of it. And so to establish a new crop, there's going to be a lot of experimentation going on as far as what grows here, what are the different growing methods, when it grows best, what type of soil does it grow best in, how to harvest it, how to handle it, how to process it. So all of this will be ongoing, but it gives the farmers another option. You'll also have a number of what we call non-traditional farmers, new farmers with small acreage that will be growing this, and that will be predominantly for the oils, for the CBD oils. And then of course we will have a processing industry, and you have different routes of processing, one for the fiber, one for the for the flour, but also then for the CBDs to harvest those organic compounds that are in the hemp plant, and then from that processing it into different usable forms. So there's a lot of things going on here simultaneously. Initially, this will be an expensive crop to put in the ground, because seeds are sold by the seed, not by the pound, not by the ton, but by the seed. And so if you're looking at a stocking ratio of 5,000 to 16,000 seeds per acre, anywhere from 65 cents to $3 or $4, whatever that is, per seed, depending on the variety, depending on what you're trying to do with it, you can have a high dollar cost in the acreage. So we have to make absolutely sure that we do everything to grow it out right and to make sure that it is hemp too. My job also is that when the farmers buy this seed, they're going to have to present a certificate to me of where they bought it from, and it's going to have to be from some third-party source that shows that this is, number one, hemp seed, and number two, it's hemp seed derived from plants that the mother plants have less than 0.3% THC, and also some basic certification on germination and the content to make sure that it doesn't have any weeds or anything else in there. We want to make sure the farmer gets good seed, viable seed, and it's hemp seed. A lot will depend on the amount of end usage of the crop. And so if there's an expansion in the amount of CBD consumption by the population, which will then drive a demand for this crop. And this can be a very profitable crop. It can be very profitable if you're going especially towards the CBD oils. It's a little less profitable if you're going towards fiber. But it is a very profitable crop when you start looking at if you can produce anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 per acre if it's going to CBDs or more. But again, a lot will depend on the end-use consumption and on the processing, and then on the net profitability to the farmer, depending on all the different factors involved. So it could be a very viable alternative. I think initially we'll probably have 100 to 200 farmers in the state, and we'll be, the amount of acreage will really depend on the availability of seeds.
Well, our state is on another worst list this week, and it pertains to the flu. The season is officially a few weeks away, but a part of the state is already seeing elevated flu-like symptoms in patients. It's the only place in the country where that's happening. I talked with Dr. Alex Billioux from the Department of Health. Dr. Billioux, thanks for being here. You've been quoted as saying that we seem to be at the forefront of the flu season. Why is that?
Well, it's not entirely clear. What we do know is that we have a cluster of early flu cases and people with flu symptoms, especially in the southeast of the state, which is higher than what we're seeing in other states.
And why would it be clustered in one corner of the state?
So again, we're not entirely sure, but it could be that because it's so early in the season, certainly before we really have a lot of people being vaccinated, that you have a small number of folks that are infected, and then it's transmitting around. People are sharing it around in their community, and so that's a good reason that it would be concentrated like that. We're not seeing the same level of activity across the entire state, so it kind of goes with this idea that there's a local spread.
And nationwide, no other place is standing out.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right. The type of flu that we're seeing in the Southeast is a type of flu that we usually only see at the end of a season. So it's making us wonder whether there's potentially, somebody who was traveling and was exposed in Asia, where flu usually starts, where it sort of goes around the world, and potentially bring in a late flu to us, whereas the rest of our neighbors are seeing what we more typically see in early flu.
Could it mean a worse season down the line or as it progresses?
So it's too early to tell, and actually we have the power to define that right now. We're not sure whether this is going to be a flu that really spreads statewide very quickly. The way that we have the power to change that is to really accelerate vaccinations right now. So the Office of Public Health has been doing a lot of mass vaccination efforts, including just drive-through vaccines in various parts of the state, so people can show up, get a vaccine without having to leave their car. We want people to go to their doctors, go to their pharmacies, get the flu vaccine now, and that'll make sure that we don't see this spread statewide as fast as it is in that small area of the Southeast. So our really young and people who are older, we really want to make sure that they get vaccinated. Those are the people who suffer the most when they get the flu. As a reference point, during what was pretty light flu season for us last year, we had more than 14,000 hospitalizations related to flu last year, more than 1,400 deaths. And a lot of those are going to be in your very young and your older population. But the other message to really convey is, we're very tight families here, and being a healthy adult, also very important that you get vaccinated as well, because if you get the flu, even though you're a normally healthy person, you could transmit it to your young children, to your older parents and relatives and neighbors, and you could, unwittingly spread the flu to people who are much more vulnerable. So get the flu vaccine.
Is it true that as the temperatures cool and people maybe stay inside more, that would give you the opportunity to spread something more?
Certainly if where you stay inside has lots of folks. I mean, the other thing that we run up to is we've got Halloween coming up, then we've got Thanksgiving, and then the holidays, Christmas and the winter holidays coming up. Those are lots of times we come together and spend a lot of time with each other. There's lots of partying and shaking hands and things like that. We really worry if you're not going into that vaccinated, you risk transmitting. And it could be you don't see your grandparents until that one time. Well, if you're sick when you're bringing them over your house, that could be bad.
Would you touch on flu shot myths?
Sure.
And truths?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. I think the biggest one that we encounter is people who are worried about getting the flu from the flu shot. And it just doesn't work that way. The flu vaccine in the flu shot is inactivated, it's dead virus. So really what people react to is your arm gets sore. Some people even sometimes run a small temperature. That's your body making the immune defenses against the flu, but it's not getting the flu. The other myth is that if you get the flu vaccine, you won't get the flu at all. The truth is that even if you get the flu after you have the flu vaccine, it's going to protect you probably from being hospitalized and certainly mean you have a milder flu. So people will get the flu vaccine, somehow still get the flu, and complain that the vaccine just doesn't work. It does. It's keeping you out of the hospital, and it's keeping you from spreading this to other people.
And once you have the flu, how are you taking care of yourself?
Well, one of the big things that changed last season is there's new medications on the market to help shorten the duration of flu and reduce how long you're infectious. We used to really just say that those would be for people who were in those high-risk groups, so young children or older adults, especially older adults. Now, anybody who has the flu-like symptoms is probably a candidate. Anybody who certainly has the flu is a candidate for that medication. We really want to try to shorten the duration of flu.
What are some of those medications?
So one of them is called oseltamivir. That's sort of a classic one that people have been using for a while.
Are these prescription, over the counter?
These are prescription drugs. So you do have to go see your provider. And really, if you're feeling anything that feels worse than a cold, and the flu, for people who've had it, they know that it was not subtle. Go to your provider. If nothing else, they're going to be able to swab you, give you the helpful information about whether you do need to have a medication to be treated, and also help you understand what kind of guidance you need for your family members that have been around you. This is our chance to act early.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
The fish feed the plants and the plants clean the water for the fish. It's called aquaponics, the technique of growing fish and crops together in a closed-loop ecosystem. We took a trip to Brookstown Middle School here in Baton Rouge to see the only aquaponics lab in middle school in the state.
This is anything but your typical middle school class.
Because right now our bacteria is where it needs to be because we don't have a high level of nitrite. So we can wipe this window down for the visitors to see.
These students in lab coats who look more like mini professors are part of a unique program at Brookstown Middle School in North Baton Rouge. It's called aquaponics, the blending of agriculture and hydroponics. Ancient cultures developed the process to raise fish and harvest crops together, using one to sustain the other.
We're in our third year of the program. There's about 200 students in the program. We have an annual white coat ceremony every year. So the students that have appropriate attendance, appropriate conduct, and they pass the comprehensive exam on the material, we have a formal white coat ceremony. We recognize every student with their own white coat.
The students are totally responsible for the aquaponics lab, feeding and raising the tiny catfish they receive at the beginning of the school year. Those fish live in these big blue tubs, and they also plant, maintain, and harvest lettuce throughout the year, and have just added a new crop, celery. Aquaponics student Jalecia Miles walks us through the daily assignments in their aquaponics lab.
Well, once everybody come in, I tell the test manager to assign them some tests so they'll know what they're doing. Most people, like the assistant manager, they do the clarifier. And the botanists, they work with the nursery trays. Then everybody start doing what they're doing. Then once we finish, we just put all the results on the board.
Advanced students tutor those new to the class, all under the guidance of their teacher, Laura Lee Edelman.
So basically, do you see how the window's foggy? LSU Veterinary School, Dr. Darnall, she has fish in her lab too, which is where we got these from. She says she can't even see into her water.
The program is the brainchild of Exxon electrical engineer and newly elected member of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, Ronnie Morris. He used thousands of dollars of his own money to buy the first equipment. He says he was inspired to start the project after building a new home and deciding to dig a fishing pond in his backyard for his grandchildren. He says he began to research and a light bulb went off. He thought other kids can learn by growing fish too, so he took his idea to the East Baton Rouge Parish schools.
Dr. Michelle Clayton established the core team here at Brookstown Middle School. And so we had our first core team meeting. We met with the teacher and the principal. We pitched the idea, and they were interested in it. So we ran the pilot program for a year.
And the rest is history. The program has now even been expanded to nearby Estruma High School. But these middle schoolers were the pioneers of sorts who, through their aquaponics classes, are learning about careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM.
They learned the water chemistry, the fish biology, the plant biology, all the STEM concepts associated with running the lab.
And the students are apparently beginning to love what they're learning.
The LSU College of Education surveyed the students at the start of the year, and the students responded with a 2% interest in pursuing a career in a STEM-related field. But at the end of the school year, the students had participated in the program for the entire year. LSU conducted the same survey, and the students responded with a 92% interest in a STEM-related career.
In 7th grade, when I got up in here, I just started growing the fish and helping out with growing the plants and helping out with the fish.
So you basically started doing some little stuff and saw other people doing it, and that kind of piqued your interest?
I just started this year, and I didn't know that aquaponics existed, but I do really like aquaponics. But before this, I didn't have any interest in it at all. I just like raising plants because I was an agriculture student, but I didn't know about aquaponics.
My 7th grade year, got in the middle of my 7th grade year, I actually started to like it because I like to see the fish grow, and get bigger, and I like to feed the fish, test the water. Testing the water is really what I like to do. I like to test the water and do the plants.
I started off as a teacher, and then I moved to an instructional specialist. From there to an assistant principal and then principals.
Principal James Smith Jr., who has an aquarium in his office filled with catfish that have been nursed back to health by his aquaponics students, says the program has brought a new energy to their campus.
It has been phenomenal for the school. The kids love it. It helps with their math, it helps with their science and social studies, it helps with their writing because they blog. We've been doing research all in different places, so it's to help the school as a whole.
Principal Smith says their school was recently honored in the nation's capital for their innovative approach to going green.
The only one in the district, the only one in the state of Louisiana, and we're one of 38 in the nation. So that was actually a wonderful award to win based upon our school conservation and what we do as far as conserving energy and making sure the trash is up. And this program has been a huge part of that as well, because we're doing things to kind of help kids to sustain themselves.
And for the program's founder, Ronnie Morris, the recognition is just another sign that what they're doing is having a positive impact on the students and the entire community.
The idea is that we need innovative approaches to STEM education for our kids. And this is a very innovative approach where the kids can get engaged, you stimulate their mind, they develop an interest, and then they've got the passion to go with that, and then who knows where they go with it from there.
Andre, this is such a neat program. They actually sell the lettuce they grow to the school's cafeteria, and once the catfish are full grown, they sell those to Tony's Seafood.
Quite an enterprise.
And a young group of students doing it. So they're not only learning how to run a small factory, but they're also marketing and selling their goods. The lettuce, by the way, is absolutely delicious. The program now has lots of sponsors: Exxon, Tony's Seafood, LSU, and Wildlife and Fisheries, just to name a few.
The U.S.-China trade war is at a momentary truce, and state farmers are breathing a sigh of relief.
In December, that could all change if President Donald Trump follows through on his threat to raise the tariffs on Chinese imports again. This month's Louisiana Public Square traveled to Alexandria to explore the effects of the conflict on the state's economy. Where is your farm and the name of your farm?
We are, Danielle and I, we own and operate Toro Farms. We are located in Colfax, Louisiana, the dead center of the state. We operate with my parents, who operate Keystone Farms. Together we farm right at 3,000 acres of row crops. Of that row crop, about 2,000 acres of that is soybeans. So that is a huge part of our income and what we make our living of. So whenever the tariffs came into play, it really made every single day volatile.
And everyone, that's our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our brand new app.
Download it for free from your app store. This upgraded version features news, public affairs, documentaries, how-tos, and many more programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us here at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.